What's up, guys? This is Cash Shake, Chairman, CEO, and co-founder of Baseball United, the first professional baseball league in the history of the Middle East and South Asia. And you're watching the Legends on Deck podcast with my boys, Brian Koss and David Condi.
Think about that for a second.
Hard one. 1-1. That's ripped into right field. That's exactly what Rocco Baldelli told us about Alex Kirilloff. He is a absolute huge elite bat, power to all fields, and he can play both corner outfields and first base. Congratulations to Alex Kirilloff on his first major league hit coming in the postseason. And as a result, we will ask for the baseball. This one he hit to right center field. Kirilloff is going over, sliding catch. Alex Kirilloff. Max Kepler gave way to the rookie right fielder, and he comes up with a web gem.
Kepler is already on the left field side of the ball.
High fly, left field. Benintendi going back. Kirilloff has his first. A 3-run home run. What an at-bat for Alex Kirilloff. I got chills. That's such a great feeling right there. That's awesome. He was so excited. It kind of changes the lineup and how you have to pitch to these guys. High and deep to center field. Taylor back. He's got another one. Kirilloff to straightaway center field. And it's 5-1. Hit high, deep to left center field, headed toward the bullpen, and Kirilloff has his third home run of the series. A no-doubter into the bullpen. A drive to right field and gone. He's homered at least once in all 3 games of this series, and that was a tape measure shot. Wow, I mean, that was...
Welcome to episode 95 of the Legends on Deck podcast. I'm Brian Koss, along with my co-host, David Condi. Today's guest was a first-round pick of the Minnesota Twins in 2016. It was number 15 overall. Alex Kirilloff would go on to play 8 seasons with the Twins, including at the 4 years at the major league level from 2021 through 2024. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me on.
We appreciate that. So no one knows this. Well, no one knows this until I share it right now, but I actually met Alex, and he probably doesn't remember. This was way back, might have been like at least, 5 years ago maybe. The Twins were having a coaching day at the stadium, so the local league invited the coaches out to the stadium to kind of go through the different drills and get some pointers on how to coach the game. So Alex's dad was teaching, showing us hitting, like how to teach him how to hit off the tee or hit, spots in the batter's box. And he was teaching us this. I mean, I thought it was this amazing way to hit the baseball. And how he had Alex there kind of like showing how it's done and everything. And I tried to go back to my team and show them how to do that. I'm like, yeah, I don't even know how to do it. But it was just amazing. It was the day I met him and stuff, and then kind of got to watch his career, unfold from there, which I thought was a cool thing. So I appreciated back then. We kind of connected a little bit back then, but I really appreciate watching you in the game. But before we get to that part, let's go back a little bit and just kind of share with us, where did you grow up? What got you to the game of baseball, and what are some of your memories at that time, in baseball as you're going through with your dad, probably, with that swing?
Yeah, no, I think that was maybe 2017 when I was rehabbing. When he came down, he was in the area, and I kind of all aligned. But he's been, baseball from the jump. Really, he played throughout college, and then got into coaching and ran his own facility. Pretty much my whole life, shortly after that. But I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh area. And just like I said with him, like just was around the baseball environment from a young age, him having his own teams and facilities. I would kind of just hang out at the batting cages and at the facilities for most of the day. Kind of just played on a bunch of his teams growing up, a lot of travel baseball around the area, different travel tournaments and whatnot. And so was just around it all the time and almost like an eat, sleep, and breathe type of thing a lot of
Mhm.
times. But I kind of just had this itch from a young age of, that's kind of what I wanted to do and what I wanted to pursue. So I just worked hard at it, and it's given me a lot of blessings and a lot of things and lessons learned over the course of my life that I'm super grateful for.
Now, how high? I'm assuming you played in high school in Pennsylvania. Is that where you played your ball at?
Yeah. I played all throughout my senior year in Pennsylvania. Didn't move down here to Florida till after I got drafted by the Twins. So kind of going into high school was more like some showcase events and more competitive like travel teams and whatnot. I went to a really small Christian school up until about eighth grade. So small that they didn't have a baseball team or anything like that. So I switched to a private cyber charter school like halfway through my ninth grade year to play for like the local high school. And I loved it. So it gave me like a flexibility to train and whatnot, and at the same time kind of play locally for my high school. So I did that throughout my high school years as well. And then obviously over the summer and fall kind of traveled and did, the tournament and showcase circuits.
So when you got drafted out of the high school, at any point in time, did you think you wanted to play college baseball? Was that even an option for you?
Yeah, I wanted to be at a faith-based school, and Liberty University was on my radar, pretty young, and they had a really good baseball program, which kind of aligned with what I wanted to do. So I actually committed in like going into my ninth grade year to Liberty. Um, just kind of went to a showcase there, and built a connection right away and ended up accepting an offer pretty early. So um, I was ready to go to college and play college baseball if the draft wasn't an option and to do that at Liberty. So
Uh, how exciting was it when you where were you? Well, kind of go through the drafting. Where were you when you got the call that you were going to be drafted? Were you home? Were you at a different location? Were you shocked? Did you just get a phone call?
yeah, no, it was we start late in Pennsylvania. We start in like April and then we go through almost May, June-ish if you go late in the playoffs. So we were still playing our high school season and I really wanted to go to the draft. I got invited to go to the draft and I kind of watched it and they're trying to grow the draft and whatnot. I wanted to go in person, but we had a state playoff game that day, the day of the draft. So obviously couldn't miss that. And we ended up just getting a group of people together at like a restaurant in town after the game. We won the game, which was great. And then we kind of all kind of met for, kind of a gathering at a restaurant and watched the TV and whatnot. So that's kind of how it unfolded.
So yeah, Brian.
Yeah, so yeah, when it comes to the draft, like, so I noticed particularly this year, and I think most years it's like this, but MLB draft seems so much different in the sense that almost every guy is doing what you described, right? They're getting zoomed in. I think actually the draft was sponsored by Zoom, and everybody at this year's draft was on a call, sitting in their living room or sitting at a local restaurant or whatever, um, which is so different than like the NFL draft or the NBA draft where everybody parades up and puts their new hat on and holds their jersey and all that stuff. Um, I mean, you're coming out of high school at the time, right? So you make the option, not to go to take your college opportunity and jump right into professional baseball. So maybe that counts for some of that. that, it's like, okay, well, I still got a long way to work until I'm in the big leagues. Is that kind of the thought process maybe behind that?
Yeah, I mean, I think from the draft part, part of the reason why it doesn't get as much steam as the other sports is because like those first rounders that you get in the NBA and NFL, like normally you're going to see them, make an impact as early as like the next year. So
Uh,
it's just a different dynamic in baseball with, the minor leagues. I feel like it's, I mean, especially with college guys, it's definitely getting a little bit shorter in a lot of cases now than it used to be. The new CBA has definitely done a really good job with incentivizing teams with bringing up their prospects sooner. So that kind of creates a little bit different environment for that. So I think like if that continues to be the trend, like I think there could be more steam around the baseball draft, but and certainly like from a personal standpoint, I wanted to always play professional baseball. So if I had that opportunity, right away, I kind of wanted to get that process started sooner rather than later. And then you never know what happens. You can have an injury at school or not play the way you wanted to. So it was kind of for me just like having an opportunity in front of me and taking advantage of that. And kind of reiterating even to teams that I wanted to kind of do it right away and start early in my career rather than going through 3 or 4 years of school. So that was my mindset on it.
yeah, so like strike while it's hot, right? Don't
Yeah.
risk. You think it's changed a little bit with with the transfer portal and NIL and all the stuff going on in college sports now. It's certainly, got drafted in 16 and it's only 9 years ago, but the dynamics of college athletics have changed a lot over the course of the last decade. You think it's maybe do you think there's I mean, don't get me wrong, I saw a ton of high school kids get drafted. In fact, some of the top picks were all high school kids. But
hmm
there seems to be a little bit more incentive to maybe take that college scholarship or jump into the college side of the game, maybe more so than there used to be in some ways.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think if I had to guess, like if a high school guy's as highly rated as he is to get a bunch of NIL money, I mean, he's probably going to be in the first or second round. And he's going to get decent money anyways.
Yeah.
Um, I think like if you're a really, really good college player and maybe you're like a late bloomer,
Mhm.
you know, instead of going in your, junior year, I think the eligibility is, and, waiting
Yeah.
the senior year, I think that can, definitely play into it a lot more than obviously it ever has before. But it does change the dynamic of all of it. Even, probably some, middle to later round high school guys are going to be guaranteed NIL money. They know they're going to, get paid one way or the other, and they would rather take their shot and get their education started, versus going in the high school draft. So it's changed a lot. It's interesting. Um, to be honest with you, I know people have different takes on it, but I don't have a problem with, athletes getting paid just because I know how hard it is. I know, the dedication, the work that it takes to go in and playing at those levels. So I'm all for, kind of players getting compensated for the time and effort that they put in.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, you kind of have to almost look at it as like, you know, advantages, disadvantages, put your own personal financial and, athletic ability together and figure out what's best because uh like you said, you could go get you if you get drafted, the way I look at it, maybe I'm wrong, the guys getting drafted in the first round are getting paid pretty well with what they're certainly the first 10 or 15 picks, like, you refer 15th pick. If you're going in the later rounds, I could understand where guys would say, hey, I'm probably not going out of high school and round
Mhm.
number 1 or 2, might as well go to take my college experience and go develop there. And there's also like, you go to an LSU or you go to a Florida or you go to somebody like that, it's different than playing minor league baseball. Like you're gonna play. The one thing I think about, maybe again, I'm not the guy getting drafted, but the you gotta go play in front of like 8, 10,000 people at the college level, and you're gonna go play minor league baseball, single A. I mean, you guys know because you we know because we've been to games and you've played in them. Um, you're playing in front of like 500 people or maybe 1,000 people. So it's a different experience, I would
It
say.
is.
What,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, without a doubt. And again, I mean, it's everyone's preference. My my mind with getting drafted in the first round is, if I'm in the first round and then I go to college, like how much room for improvement really is there? There's not a
Oh
whole
yeah, yeah.
lot
No,
unless you're
first
just
round
trying to
draft
move
pick,
up,
it
a couple of
you
picks or whatever it is.
no doubt. Yeah, if you're going
Yeah.
15 overall, how much higher are you going to go?
Yeah. I mean, I think people have to factor that in. And obviously, it's preferential. Big time college baseball is definitely competitive. Getting into those programs, really kind of, they build team environments and they build, really good teammates that, eventually are able to work together and learn how to win and, has that competitive side of it that, I think sometimes is lacking in the lower minor league levels, just with how many games are played and how much is focused on development and repetition. I think there's honestly definitely a little bit of a discrepancy there in terms of like competitiveness, between, let's just say, SEC baseball and low A ball or extended spring training. There's just a different dynamic there for sure.
Yeah, if I had the chance to go either way, I'd probably go college because maybe I'll get to high A ball and double A than to start the lower levels, not knowing, if I'm gonna be able to stick it and stay with them and stay that long and even make it to the majors. And I mean, you're probably one of probably a handful, maybe more, that went from high school and got to pro ball to the majors, which is great. But there's many guys that don't even get that far. They make that decision. It takes a little bit of money, and then it's like they don't even, they don't reach where they think they're gonna go. Was that a mindset that maybe you might have had when you decided to sign and go pro ball? Did you think, oh man, did you think about one day getting to pro ball that you're going to get there? Did you, how was that process for you?
Yeah, like I said, I wanted to do it. I wanted to give myself as much time to, try to accomplish that goal of making the major leagues as possible. And I was comfortable doing it. Like I'd always, played with, kids 3, 4, 5, 6 years older than myself, kind of on my dad's teams because he had so many travel teams. I was used to kind of being young for, my competition age or whatever it was. So it was something that wasn't really, unfamiliar to me, kind of just being young and competing against college guys or guys that have been in pro ball for, multiple years. Um, and like I said, I just wanted to give myself as much time as possible to, to accomplish that goal. So it just made sense to me, to do it out of high school.
You're probably a little more mature, coming in saying, "I got this. It's good. No worries." When they call me up, I know I'm going to be there because I got I got what it takes to get to the majors. I mean, I'm not trying to be sarcastic. I'm just thinking that's probably the mindset you might have had as you're going through the system and kind of going along. I mean, looking at the numbers, you had very good numbers in your minor league, career. It kind of propelled you to the next level. So when you get to that next level and you get the call, we all see on social media the guys get that call in the room and everything. Where were you? Who told you that you were going to the majors?
Yeah, I was in a hotel room in, downtown Minneapolis, and it was actually the very first time was actually kind of coming off of the crazy COVID season.
Mm.
So it was at like the alternate site, bubble, whatever they called it, most of the year, kind of playing, practice and inter squad games, just staying ready, for the case that, someone went down with an injury or they needed you at any point in time during the shortened season. And I got a call late at night from Rocco, and he said that I was being activated to our playoff roster. And that was when I found out the first time. So it was a pretty cool moment. It was definitely strange and not how I, I drew it up at any point in time. Given everything leading up to that, and the circumstances of COVID and the masks and the testing and everything like that. But yeah, no, I'll never forget it. It was a pretty cool moment nonetheless.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry, and I misspoke exactly. You were brought up in 2020, but you didn't get to play. At what point did you actually get in the field to make your first?
Yeah, so we had it was a 3-game series against the Astros. I did not play the first game, but I did start in right field the second game of the series. So that was the first time I really played in a major league game. Um, was able to get, we didn't win the game, but I was able to get a hit and play some good defense in the outfield. Um, so it was in the playoffs, and it technically wasn't my first official hit because I guess playoff stats don't really count. So it was the next year where I actually recorded my first major league hit, and that was in Cleveland.
Well, I would probably defer on that and say you're in the postseason, and it may not count as your first major league hit, but you actually made your debut in the postseason. So that, I don't know if anyone else had done that. We're gonna have to look that up,
Yeah.
Brian. Did anyone else
Yeah,
in the
that's kind of
past
a unique thing, right? My first, I'm in a playoff game, and you're right. Yeah, it
make your
is.
debut and you get your first hit? I think that has to be a little bit bigger in a sense,
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
than just a regular major
I
league
think
game that starts in
I think
April.
there's players that have made their debut in the postseason, but I think it was the first player to start and record their first hit in the postseason.
See that right there? That's a stat. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
We gotta get somebody to update your baseball reference page for that.
Yeah.
So your experience in the postseason, did it make you feel like you belong? I'm here. This is what I worked hard for. Did you feel like that you reached the point where I know I can stick with them next year and this is what I want to do?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it just made me, hungry to be there again and really to try to make the team out of spring training. Coming around the next year, I kind of felt like I was probably pressing a little bit in spring training, didn't have the best spring that I could have. So I was optioned for about a month or so, and then I think in May I was able to come up um, and to officially make my debut that next season.
Yeah. So you got that. It's 2021, so it's a normal season, full season. Um, off the COVID year. But so when we've talked to guys that have played in the big leagues before, they always have like certain like standout moments or standout people that helped them along the way or like kind of brought them along and made them feel like they were part of the organization. Um, are there certain things in your early career that kind of stand out for you in terms of things that happened or stories or people that made that process and that whole experience better for you?
Yeah, I think I would just say that we had a really fun group of guys in the minor leagues. We kind of became friends pretty quickly, and it was just a fun environment. Playing cards and hanging out, and telling stories and jokes and stuff on the bus rides. We hung out a lot off the field as well, and our families even got to know each other a little bit. So it was a core group of guys that kind of was able to progress on the minor league levels together, and we were pretty good. I think like when we won the Florida State League championship in 18, like I think almost everyone in our starting lineup made the big leagues. We had
That's
like for a
great.
minor league roster that was pretty cool. So it
Yeah,
was fun that we enjoyed each other's company, and it was also fun that we played pretty good baseball together.
no doubt. Yeah, I mean that's a pretty rare thing. I gotta imagine because there seems to be like maybe like a core group of guys that come up, through a system and they kind of come up at the same time, and there's a few of them that really make the big league roster. But to have like basically a team full of guys that come up it's got to be a pretty rare and special sort of thing, and kind of all developing together.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was. And it wasn't all with the Twins. Some guys made their debuts with other teams and whatnot, but
Sure.
um yeah, no, I mean, I'd say that was the best part, because I mean, it's the people that you're sharing, 10, 12 hours a day with sometimes. So it can be, a positive or a negative thing, really quickly when you're spending that much time around people, on a daily basis. So I just say the group was awesome kind of coming up through the minor leagues. So that really made it special.
Yeah, for sure. I always wonder about this, and this is one of those things that when thinking back to the draft and then thinking starting in the minor leagues. So I see with baseball this like convergence, right? So you have these kids, I would say baseball at this point is probably about 50% American born kids. Maybe it's a little bit more. And 40-50% international kids, right? Mostly from the Caribbean, but we have a lot more Japanese players and Korean players too. But it always seems interesting to me. You're playing against American competition growing up in high school. You're doing showcases, you're doing tournaments, and you're seeing like the best American players have to offer at that level. And then you get thrown into the minor leagues and you get this whole new element, right? You got these guys coming up from the Dominican and from Venezuela and other places. Like, how does seems to like it's like that's where it all gets sorted out. Like who's gonna make it? Like now you've got a whole new pool of players that you're playing against. So what is that experience like, or is that really like the separation point there when they all come together?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think, once you get into professional baseball, obviously everyone is super talented. Um, and then, there's not really, a ton of discrepancy, especially as you get to the upper levels in major leagues and talent. It comes down to those other, types of things like the intangibles and your work ethic. And then even in the big leagues, everyone generally works hard, and then it's really like your mentality, your preparation, and your approach and stuff like that. So, I think, obviously everyone is there for a reason. They all have talent, but as you kind of get to the upper levels, those finer types of details, I think, is what really starts to separate people.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting because you've got it's is there a different style? Are there different styles of play maybe between players that are American born players, American guys that grew up and international players? You see a difference, or is baseball just baseball?
Um, yeah, I mean, I would say one thing maybe is just like, sometimes, Latin American guys are a little bit more looser and laid back just because they've always been in, a baseball environment. It's kind of more of, their culture in some of those areas than it is, in the United
Yeah,
States.
because the major league teams can bring them out, to the summer league or whatever at 16 years old and sign them versus,
Yeah.
you guys that are playing high school ball, where you got to go, it's probably a different atmosphere for that kind of teenage years,
Yeah.
until get to the minor league level.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think if anything, they might just be, sometimes maybe a little bit more comfortable or relaxed just from the amount of games that they've played and just being around it, from a cultural and, standpoint, I don't know, their whole life. But, regardless, it's fun, meeting people, trying to pick up, you know, some Spanish words and, communicate with them and stuff like that. Um, and just getting to, you know, be able to meet people from all over the world and, kind of to come alongside and compete for a common goal is pretty cool to share with people from all over.
Yeah, it's true. I always tell Brian, I've done kind of volunteer on the side with the Red Sox. I have a lady that teaches the English to the Spanish ball players. And when I talk to them, I'm like, how do you understand? I mean, if you don't know the English, you don't know English yet. So how do you communicate with the coaches and stuff? They're like baseball. I know baseball terms, and that's all I need to know. And everything else, we don't
Yeah.
talk about anything else. We just talk baseball terms, which is true. Baseball is baseball, right? All
Yeah.
the terms are the same, and probably in English and Spanish is understood. Um, Yes, it's just, and I see it too with the Spanish ball players. I always see the Spanish ball players want to hang out with the American ball players. They can learn English, and the American ball players hang out with Spanish ball players. They can learn Spanish. And then maybe during out the game, you play a team that doesn't have Spanish ball players, then you guys can mess with the other team, and just
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
things in Spanish they don't know. Um, Looking at your career as a whole, if as a fan looking at your career, where you've come, how well you've played, in our mind, and not in a negative way, we just say, "Oh wow, I would have seen you playing longer." What would have what have I guess the question is, what happened that kind of took you to where kind of playing less years than what you thought you would have played? What caused that?
Yeah, no, it was definitely a tough decision for me to kind of step away from the game this last fall. Um and I just tell people there's a bunch of different things that kind of led into it. Um but the main, thing that was centered around was, the string of injuries that I had kind of leading up to that point. And then a specific back injury last year that I was dealing with and still rehabbing now. Um that was tough. Like it was definitely a process last year trying to navigate and talk to a bunch of different doctors regarding my back. Um, some of them were saying spinal fusion. Some of them was saying that I could, manage and play through it. So it was just like a lot of, different opinions and whatnot. So ultimately the decision kind of leading into, to what it was, a lot riding on the back injury and still kind of, trying to get that 100% healed, and get it back to where it needs to be. I've been lucky to have really good progress so far throughout the fall and this year. So we're definitely going in the right direction with that. But I'd just say a lot of different things kind of led into that decision. But, a lot of it was centered around the back injury that, made it really difficult to play last year. And moving forward, thinking about things from, life perspective too, and quality of life down the road as well. That's kind of where we arrived with that decision to step away in the fall.
I can understand you. I mean, that totally. I have, unfortunately, for my dad's side of the family, we have bad back. I've pulled my back enough times that it's a killer. And actually, I was in the batting cage not too long ago with my son, practicing with him and this other kid, and I would say, "Oh, I can hit the baseball. Let me just go and take a couple of swings." And I hit the ball, but then the kid's like, "Well, why are you not twisting? Why are you not turning?" I'm like, "You crazy? If I turn, I'm gonna pull my back. There's no way
Yeah.
I can swing the bat out. I'll pull it out. You guys gotta carry me out of here." So a back injury is just something you can't play with, and you never know when it's gonna go out. You never know at any given moment that it goes, and then that's it. You feel like you're crippled. You can't do anything. So, unfortunately, I'm sorry that you had to go through that. I'm sorry that that's what caused you to leave the game. But I understand it. It's rough. I've seen a bunch of guys like David Wright, other guys with back issues, and that's kind of something hard to recover from. But if there's a magic drug and something comes your way and it heals it, would you get back up there and try it again?
Yeah, no, I mean, I say that I never really want to, close any doors for
Right.
sure. But it's just the nature of sports, and injuries and stuff like that. They can come up quick, and obviously, I never really planned on, it kind of coming to where it is now. When I first started my career and whatnot, I wanted to play probably till I was 40 at least. But it was a tough like play, get injured rehab cycle that I was in for a lot of my career, which kind of wears on you, mentally, as well. So that was kind of a component and dynamic of it, of really just, really wanting an opportunity to let my body reset and to give it the necessary time that I needed to heal. And obviously, stepping away was, one of the ways to do that. So.
Yeah, and people don't realize that baseball is every single day. I mean, other sports every day, but you play every single game every day, most weeks, right? Where football is once a week and basketball is maybe every 2 days, whatever. So you have to be ready to go every day, and that's a lot of pressure and strain on your body, just trying to be ready for it. So, for the people, I mean, me and Brian have never played professional baseball like that, but for the people we know, we understand it. Some fans don't get it, but I get it. It's tough and mindset that you want to be out there, you want to compete. But when your body's not agreeing with you, it just makes it so much harder because of the fact you got to be ready every day to go.
Yeah. For me, like I, was talented, but I always, was someone that needed a lot of repetition to really refine what I wanted to do. So a lot of people just don't see like how many swings that you take, just to go into one at bat on the field. They just see the one at bat,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
maybe you looked at three pitches and walked back to the dugout. So that's all they see. But sometimes you could take 50 swings in the cage, before you even head up to that at bat. So it's constant all day long. Recovery, your sleep, your diet, and then all the preparation, the reports and stuff. Pretty much occupies like almost all of your time.
Yeah.
So it's stressful on kids and family as well. But that's like I said, with injuries, it's the nature of, playing at that level and playing in the big leagues. The dedication and the commitment, is something that a lot of times goes unnoticed by fans and, even people that just wouldn't know one way or the other, how much time it actually takes up. So,
Yeah. See that.
You speaking of injuries, we all when we talk to pitching guys, we're always talking about injuries, right? So pitchers were notorious for Tommy John and everything else, but we kind of overlook everyday players and the type of injuries that they get. And I want specifically about outfielders, like you hear about back injuries with outfielders, you hear about shoulder injuries. I mean, think about Mike Trout, how many times he's been down in the last 5 or 6 years, or Ronald Acuna Jr. Guys like that have missed entire seasons in recent years from injuries. Is there something specific about, like just the dynamics of playing outfield that you think make players more vulnerable to injuries than, say, maybe like a first baseman?
yeah. No, yeah, there's different things.
Well, he's running
You
into
can
a
get
wall.
you can get crushed at first base,
Yeah.
pretty easily. But
Yeah, true.
yeah, no, you definitely. I don't know. I guess you could say some guys probably have to take care of their bodies and I guess kind of hold a different type of standard sometimes to play outfield, like because people don't realize a lot of times they track our distance. Sometimes you're running miles and miles like during a game.
Yeah.
So there's like a physical and conditioning standpoint to it for sure. But outside of that, obviously the wall and plays at the wall, and I would say probably longer like striding and longer leaping dives than maybe you would have
Sure.
in reacting something quick in the infield. So there's definitely different components to that than, like you said, maybe first base that can kind of lead to different injuries for sure, with outfielders.
Diving on the. Oh, yeah. No, get Brian.
No, I think there's a truth to that. I just when I start thinking about it, I'm like, you hear a lot more about outfielders with injuries, and then you watch these plays, on highlights and games that you're watching, and the collisions and it just seems like a lot of people kind of dismiss them, like, oh yeah, they're running for the ball, they're catching these fly balls, but you're kind of twisting and contorting your body a lot to get to those balls and make those catches. So it's pretty easy to see when you really think about it, the types of body movements that you'd have to make and the speed that you have to that you also have to do it.
Yeah. And, it's hard too, like being young and not playing in those stadiums before, like you want to do whatever you can to, be the best outfielder possible, especially being called up, young to the big league. So adjusting to different size, warning tracks and dimensions and knowing where the walls are and how the balls are going to play too is not the easiest thing to do, especially not playing there before. So, it's hard to keep all that in the back of your mind as you're running to a ball and try to make the play as well. So
That's a great point. Baseball is
yeah,
one of the only sports like that. I mean, like you play football, you know what the size field's going to be. You play basketball, you know what the court size is going to be. You play an outfield in a minor league or major league baseball stadium, every dimension is different.
yeah,
And it's just, and I've noticed this is more recent, and it probably you've seen it, you were doing it too, because in the last few years is everybody's checking, like all the outfielders I'm watching, they're checking under their sweatband or whatever for, maybe it's what are they checking? Distance, like where to stand? Is it just like doing a shift in
yeah.
the infield?
Essentially, yeah. I mean, it's just analytics, really.
Yeah.
I don't even know how exactly they do it. Like if it's just off of, spray charts and whatnot, but it has
Yeah.
every batter in the lineup, and then it has the starting pitcher, in respect to every batter in the lineup, and then it has even, right-handed and left-handed relievers normally as well. So
That's a lot of
it's
information on a small piece of thing.
I
yeah.
know.
Yeah, so it has every guy in the lineup, and then it has, obviously their whole roster of bench players, and then it kind of just, it's normally nothing crazy, but like, if you're, you have your starting point, and it might be 2 or 3 steps to the left, and then, depth or shallow, and vice versa. So, I guess it's just really based on the analytics and where they think that you need to be on that specific guy, and
Yeah.
that's where they want you to stand. And so they do all the work, whatever it does, like whatever work they do to to go into putting those cards, they want you to make sure you're there in that spot. So that's why you
It's
see guys
amazing.
always checking and making sure they're in the right spot.
Yeah, it's amazing. I figured it had, it's probably coming from somebody sitting in the booth up front, up top, like they're crunching the numbers and handing it off to the coach and or to you guys. I mean, I was watching Sunday Night Baseball last night, and they've got a mic on Riley Green, and he's checking, and in the middle of talking, he goes under his wristband, looks at his card real quick, and
Mhm.
puts the card back in there. So, it's a pretty sophisticated thing.
It is, yeah. Most teams have a whole like analytical department now.
Yeah.
And they're running numbers on everything. From offensive, defensive, pitching perspective, pinch hitting, situations and whatnot, play into, games pretty largely now as well. So they're definitely paying attention to everything that's going on. Nothing flies under the radar for that.
Yeah.
They chew you out if you're not standing in the right spot. Is that?
Not really. Like sometimes if it's blatant, but like our outfield coach, who's Tommy Watkins, he coached third base as well. He would, obviously be watching every inning and trying to make sure. But with 3 of them out there and trying to keep track of every single pitch, it's not the easiest thing to do. But normally everyone does a pretty good job of making sure they are where they need to be.
I think the next thing is, you have the pitch comm, so maybe they'll have something for the outfielders to put on, and then you don't have to worry about all that. The coach is just telling you, okay, move to the left a little bit, or move to the right. You just have it
Yeah.
in your head, and you don't have to. But then I don't know if that's bulky. I don't know. I see that in the guys' hats all the time. I wonder, that must be so
Yeah, they
uncomfortable.
might be able to do an earpiece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Maybe. I think right now, I think only three position players can have it.
Yeah.
Um, I
shortstop,
think it's
pitcher,
normally
catcher.
like the catcher, shortstop, and center fielder.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay. Well, you know what? We've truly enjoyed kind of going down memory lane with you and learning, hearing about your journey in the game. And I'm gonna be selfish. I wish you didn't have a back issue. I love the way you swung the bat, and I'm very interested. I was very excited watching you play the game and stuff. But kind of outside of the game, what are you doing now? Share with us. What's the next step? Where's it taking you? And I'm going to hold out hope that we're going to find a drug and we're going to fix you. We're going to get you back in the game. But for the meantime, what are you doing out there right now?
Yeah, I'm full-time in real estate now. I'm with Keller Williams, and it's something I do enjoy and have a passion for. So I'm grateful that, I'm able to transition right now into something that I genuinely do enjoy doing. I've had a pretty long-standing relationship with, my partner that I work with, Kyle Thompson, for a while. He's been doing it for the last 15 years in this area or so. He's done, probably over 1,600 transactions. He's been very, very successful, while doing it. So I've been fortunate to have someone to, kind of take me in as a mentee a little bit, and to be able to learn the ropes and kind of get my footing and be as prepared as I need to be with everything there is to know, in the world of real estate. So I like doing that, and I like doing some real estate investing myself. That's kind of what drew me into real estate. A little bit younger, going through baseball and kind of dipping my toes into that a little bit as well. So that's what I'm doing now full time, and kind of gives me the flexibility to take my kids to where they need to be, to drive them to school in the morning, and kind of work around my wife's work schedule as well. So it's been working out so far.
And it's so free that when spring training run comes around, you could just sit back and watch a baseball game and then also talk about real estate with the person next to you.
Yeah.
Because they'll see your face on the banner and the outfit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And help you build your business. Well, that's great, man. And I wish you well with that. The market's a little crazy here in Southwest Florida, but it's starting to pick up, and rates are starting to balance out a little bit. There's a lot of homes out there to sell, so I wish you luck with getting them all sold.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
One last thing, I wanted to just break these out. When David told me that you were going to be on the show, my son and I are big baseball card collectors, so I have a couple of your rookie cards here. Well, I got one of your rookie cards and then one of second-year card. So, anyway,
Nice.
I like to incorporate baseball cards in everything that I do, as much as possible. So,
yeah, no, I like it. I like it too. I've been able to collect some cold pieces that I have of my own cards. Just to show my girls. My girls get a kick out of it, so I wanted to, collect and trade a little bit to get some of those. But cards
so
are cool.
Are you collecting your own stuff then? You got some? Do you have all your own stuff?
Yeah, some of my own stuff.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I don't know. I feel like it's something I could get into a little bit more than I ever have before, just because of having more time on my hands. I do enjoy kind of, following, the different types of cards and what's out there and whatnot. We actually were at this. Have you ever gone to the Southwest Florida card show?
I've heard about it. I told Brian about it, but I've never been.
Yeah, he's told me. I'm up in Orlando actually, so I go to a lot of the shows around here. But
Nice.
yeah, he sent me a flyer for it. Maybe I'll come down there sometime.
Yeah, I just went to the first one recently. We set up a booth to, donate some money to local FCA college ministries, and I had some like game use items and stuff like that. So it was cool.
Oh,
but
cool.
yeah, no, it's crazy the interest in the hobby and whatnot. I collected when I was really young. I had a bunch of binders, but kind of grew out of it into my teenage years. But to see, what it's kind of turned into with social media and the accessibility online, it's pretty cool to see. I don't see it going away anytime soon. That's for sure.
Well, I'll give you one point on Brian.
Yeah.
So Brian writes our baseball cards section on the website, and he put out an article on the preseason baseball cards, and that has been probably one of the biggest hits we get every single day. Like people are
really?
Yeah, they're really into it. So if you want to know don't talk to me about cards. He's the one you want to talk to. He's the one that's going to get you where you need to be.
Yeah,
Nice.
I gotta have to find one of your You should have a Bowman first out there when you were drafted. So I'll have to find one of your Bowman first. Those I always like.
I think I have some.
Yeah,
I think I have some. Probably some extras.
Very cool. Yeah, I always like having the first cards. And you kind of track where the guys are going, and when they hit the big leagues. So yeah. So does your auto match up with your real auto? Did you really autograph? Send the autos off the tops?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
it kind of got refined over time, just because I think everyone kind of changes it a little bit. Yeah, but yeah, no, they're all legitimate. I have spent some some solid time signing autographs for various companies and the stickers and whatnot. So
Yeah. So they said. So that's a great question. Then, did they send you the stickers? The ones when they don't do the on card, they have the on cards, and then they have the sticker autos.
yeah, a lot of times they send both. Yeah, a
Okay.
lot of times they'll send a package full of stickers for those ones you were talking about, and then they'll send a bunch of cards as well.
So since I'm
That's cool.
not understanding anything you guys talk about, I do have a question about your signature. After signing for an hour, does it stay the same? Or are you gonna have a slight variation of a signature?
Yeah, I got pretty good with enough, practice and repetition to really kind of dial it in, I feel like. Especially over a long period of time. So I feel like they're pretty solid. And I don't know, I've gotten some compliments on my signature, and sometimes guys will just like scribble something, but I try to take pride in trying to make somewhat my first and last name out. First and last initials there.
So we know who you are when we look at the baseball. And I'm like,
yeah.
I gotta say though, your 2021 rookie card, that's a great photo. That top series is it series 1, series 2, series 2. That's a great photo. It's like you at bat with the catcher behind you. It's like that's cool. That's a great photo on that.
Yeah, that was my debut in the playoff game. Yeah, so that was pretty.
Oh, that's
was
from your debut in the playoffs.
See,
game. Okay.
Look at that. You have to get that card and hold
So
on to it because that was a playoff game.
Context of I've got context of where that's coming from. That's from that. Was that from that hit? Maybe.
Yeah, I think it might have been. Yeah,
you're right because it's against the Astros. Wow. Yeah, there we go. Card. I got the history of this card right here.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to bring you on for another show just about baseball cards, and I'll just sit back and I'll listen. You guys
we'll just go through his every card that he has printed on him. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I'd be interested in even knowing what the series are, the colors and whatnot. It's all still.
You gotta collect
all I do when I'm seeing all those cards is working on getting my signature on it. So I'm not really paying attention to what they all are and whatnot. So
yeah, there's a few guys now that are super into it. Like I've seen Trout, I guess, is really into it. Bobby Witt Jr. is really into it. Corbin Carroll. Yeah. There's a few guys that like they're walking around the stadium like swapping cards with kids and stuff. Like they'll cool. Hand out, they'll do a lot of that. There's a few big collectors out there, but cool, man. I didn't know it would sidetrack into a little baseball card action, but I had to break it out. But yeah, and Alex, thank you for coming on and joining us. Good to hear your story, and you're welcome to check back in with us anytime.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. I appreciate it once again.
Yeah, and I will say subscribe, YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram. What am I missing? Spotify.
And we'll get all of Alex's links to where he's at. So if you're looking for a house, you gotta contact him. Southwest Florida we're exploding. We're still big. We're still a beautiful area. It's still paradise. So we'll make sure that we get everybody to contact Alex for any type of listing or any type of purchase.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
All right, guys.
That's episode 95. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.